Hey, what is going on everybody? My name is Payne and welcome to another anime review video. Now in this video I decided I was going to do something different. Instead of preparing for a show in advance and getting notes ready and stuff like that, I decided that I was going to pick a show by random. That is, pick a show literally out of a hat. In this hat are the notes of shows that I've written over time while editing other videos. I think I wrote, I can't speak today. I think I've written like 5 of these while editing the Melancholia Haruhi Suzumiya, the last video, and over time they get pretty fun. And so I decided that I was going to pick one at random, and the one that I picked is a pretty interesting one. It is a show that has divided anime fans since it was made back in 2012, separating the people that like this show to the people that don't like this show, and that is Sword Art Online. The show started off as a light novel made in 2009, and since then there have been 2 more light novels, 2 manga, both written by Kawahara. He also wrote one of the light novels. There have been 4 anime series, going to be a 5th one, a live-action one released on Netflix pretty soon. And there were 2 movies, in addition to 10 video games that were made for mostly PC and VR. But just to start things off, let's just talk about Season 1. Season 1 of Sword Art Online was made by A1 Pictures and is aired from July to December of 2012, consisting of 26 episodes and 2 arcs, 13 episodes each. The story begins with a guy by the name of Kazuto Kirigaya, better known by his username Kirito, logging in to Sword Art Online, the first ever VR MMORPG game made by a guy named Akihiko Kayaba, who also made the VR headset that players will wear just to play Sword Art Online, among other games as well. After playing the game for a while, he discovers that he can't log out, and finds out that Kayaba intentionally got rid of the log out button, and later announces that the only way that people could leave the game is if someone beats the game, and that was the goal of the first arc for Kirito, was to beat Sword Art Online. And for anyone who has not seen the show, really how to beat Sword Art Online, it's a game, and I know that there's a few games very similar to it. They're not so well known. Some of them that are. They're basically what it is that everyone starts on the first floor. There are 10,000 players, and all of them start on the first floor. And for someone to beat the game, they have to go up to the 100th floor and beat the final boss, which was later discovered to be Kayaba himself, who plays as a character in the game. Now, he also says that if anyone ever tried to leave the game, that the nerve gear is connected to the nerves in their brain, so that means if anyone ever tried to forcefully take the headset off of them, then the nerves would go off, and that they would be considered brain dead, which is pretty tragic because at the start of the 2nd episode, it was already announced that 2,000 people died. And about a good 10 minutes after he said, that you can't log out and that you have to beat the game, 200 people already died. So Kirito ends up beating the game in the first arc, but not before a few things happen in SAO. So before he beats the first boss, he meets a mysterious girl by the name of Asuna, who he later abandons after beating the first boss, saying that he only fights alone. After a few episodes, she returns as this mysterious girl working her way up to be the 2nd in class for the biggest guild in Sword Art Online, known as the Knights of the Blood Oath. And from that point on in the first arc, both Kirito and Asuna, they develop a thing for each other, and they would even go so far as to marry each other in the game and reside in a log cabin for their honeymoon. After a couple of days of living in the log cabin, they both discover a little girl in the woods and take her back to the log cabin. When she wakes up, the only thing that she remembers is her name, which is Yui, and thinks that Kirito and Asuna are their parents, calling them mommy and daddy. Now, this started like a short plot line of where Yui actually came from, and it concludes with Yui beating a boss with 1 shot. It was later revealed that Yui was an artificial intelligence that was made in the game's program as a AI that would help the Sword Art Online characters. But instead, she was later restricted to just monitoring the characters by Kayaba after finding out how huge and how powerful Yui was. And speaking of her being powerful, Yui later gets deleted after the game finds out that she was, she got out into the main world and that she affected the game. And that was really the last huge event in the first arc, and both Asuna and Kirito end up beating the game, but unfortunately Kirito was the only one out of the two that would end up waking up from the nerve gear. This is where the second arc begins. The second arc begins with Kazuto finding out that Asuna is still unconscious. He discovers that she is in a game known as Alfheim Online, and that with the help of a couple of friends in that game, he ends up saving her. Once again, beating a boss. He ends up beating a boss in Sword Art too, and that everyone lives happily ever after. Now, let me mention why I really don't like this show, but just to get it out of the way, let's just talk about some of the good stuff. The first one is the soundtrack. If I were to suggest any, music from the soundtrack, it would definitely be the first opening of the show, known as Crossing Field. It is one of the most iconic songs in recent memory when it comes to anime themes. I highly suggest it for anyone who hasn't listened to it. And the art, especially in Alfheim Online and in Sword Art Online, you can tell that the animators, their creativity went wild. You can tell that they had a lot of fun animating the show, especially in the games, making the structures, making the cities, making the bosses that he would fight in Sword Art are really cool as well. But now that we got that out of the way, let me mention why I think this show is awful. Why I think this show is a piece of shit, and why this pisses me off. Let's start off with the plot. Now, the plot, for the most part, is pretty good. Just the unfortunate thing is that for half of the plot, no, more than half of the first arc, are fillers. Really, it's just to introduce all these characters that Kirito meets while he's not with Asuna. And really, the only time that it's not a filler is if either he's fighting a boss, he's getting ready to fight a boss, or if he's with Asuna towards the second half of the first arc. And now going towards the second arc, it's bringing me towards calling this one of the most unnecessary plot lines in the history of anime. Because if you really think about it, nobody asked for this. When someone walks into Sword Art Online, they expect a story about a guy who tries to leave a game and try to beat all these bosses from a game. Not two games. Not beating one game, trying to get out of it, and then go save someone in another game. You can make that into your own series yourself. It wouldn't be so unnecessary if you did that. But I don't know what in the world they were thinking. I guess that was in the light novels. I can't really say for sure. But again, I felt like I just wasted most of my time watching the second arc of that season. And I don't know. It just didn't really sit well with me. Now it's time for me to mention the other reason why this show pisses me off. And that is the characters. We're going to start with Kirito. And even though he is the main character and he fights through adversity, during the game and stuff like that, he, to other people, is a cheater. If you really think about it, imagine you're playing an MMO game or playing World of Warcraft or playing any multiplayer game whatsoever, which gives you the option of playing in a group or not. And then you see this one guy, after playing for a while, with only one weapon, very little armor, killing everyone by one shot. You would call him a cheater. Call of Duty has seen its fair share of it. World of Warcraft, I wouldn't be surprised if they saw their fair share of it. That's practically the closest example I can think of to Sword Art Online, because they're both MMORPG games. So really, that's really all Kirito is a cheater. And it doesn't really help the fact that there's a lot of gamers who are fans of this show and fans of Kirito himself. I don't know if it's just they haven't played that many games or they just really don't give a shit. But regardless, why are you rooting for this guy? This guy is a cheater. Now let's move on to Asuna, who at the start of the series I had a lot of promise for. She came in at around the 4th or 5th episode. She meets Kirito and she looks like she could kick some ass, to be honest. But ever since that she meets Kirito, she barely does anything except make food for her and really just love Kirito, with the addition of Kirito loving her back. It doesn't help the fact that she was literally captured and taken away in the second season, with an attempt of her trying to escape. It's just Asuna had more chances. There were more chances for her to be more of a character than she already was. I have never seen Sword Art Online 2. I have never seen Gun Gale. If Asuna is in Sword Art Online 2, I hope she's a way better character there. Otherwise, I would be fucking disappointed. Now, for the side characters, it's because that Kirito and Asuna are seen so much in Sword Art Online, the side characters barely have any time to develop as characters. I can't even remember any of the characters from the show, with the exception of Balls Deep 69, thanks to the Sword Art Online Abridged series, which I highly suggest you watch over this piece of trash. And that's it. That's it. Like, I cannot think of anything else. It's actually aggravating me trying to think about who else is in the show other than Kirito, Asuna, or Yui. And now, before I go on into the villains, I do want to mention a part in the second arc that is kinda not sitting well with me. Now, in the second arc, I said that Asuna was taken capture, and that she was taken from SAO to this new game, Alfheim Online, and that Kirito is trying to save her and trying to get her back. He gets help from a girl known as Lifa. That's really all he knows her as. But it was towards the end of the second arc that he discovers that Lifa was his little sister. It's a little awkward, and you get a little bit of an incest vibe because for a while, you look like they were going to have a relationship together. And it was around, I think, episode, 16? 17 probably? Is where you discover that Lifa is actually his little sister, who, in my opinion, had the most character development of any character in the game, because she had a massive effect over the fact that Kazuto was stuck in this game for 2 years, I think, and she was so intrigued over the fact that he would get stuck in this game, and even beforehand when he would even play just video games constantly, that she even got into it, and she got into Alfheim Online. But now let's go to the final ones, and those are the villains. The villains for the first arc is Akihiko Kayaba. I don't think he's a good villain because towards the end of the first arc, after Kirito and Asuna beat Kayaba to finish off the game, he says something about not remembering why he even made it in the first place, which is not a really good thing for a villain to say. While for Nobuyuki Sugo, who is the villain in the second game that captured Asuna in Alfheim Online, it's not that he forgot what he wanted to do. He completely remembered what he wanted to do. He's just a perv. Keep in mind that Asuna at this point is about, I think, 18, while Sugo is definitely is in like his 20s. And I don't think I've ever seen a worse example of someone expressing their relationship. It's like a reverse yandere is what this guy is, because he is madly in love with Asuna is what this is. And he's saying all this stuff about how he's going to get married with Asuna when she wakes up, and that they already have a wedding plan. And I'm just going to say this, spoiler, this is the thing that irritates me. So he says that he wants to marry her, but then he retracts that by saying, oh no, we're not going to get married. We're just going to, I'm going to be adopted into her family, which is practically the same thing. Newsflash, jackass. No, it doesn't. It just aggravates me just thinking about some stuff. This show is just not good. It doesn't have a good look in my head, and I really don't like it. Sugo is mainly just a pervert, and he would even go so far as to smell Asuna's hair both when she's in a coma in the real world and even during the game, and even when she's freaking tortured at the end of the second arc. More spoilers. And so that's why I think the villains, I think Asuna, I think Kirito, everyone except for Kirito's little sister makes this show a piece of shit. Oh, dude. Feels good that I finally got that out. Now, let's go up to what I think. Now, let's just get into my overall take on the show. Don't watch it. This is the first video that I'm posting on this channel where I actually don't suggest a show. This show, in my opinion, is super overrated. It has a way bigger fan base than I think it is. Now, I mentioned in an earlier video about another show that has a giant fan base such as Love Live. The only difference is that Love Live actually deserves their fan base because it's actually a good show. This one isn't a good show. I don't know if it's because of the other shit that I watch or what, but it just doesn't sit well with me. Really, all I can say about this as someone who has never watched Sword Art Online 2, Gun Gale, or Alicization, not yet at least, I just hope that they can go up from here. But from what I'm hearing, that doesn't look like the case. But I am still going to be making videos about it. I am going to be making a video on Sword Art Online 2. Currently, it's not in my playbook right now, but it will be coming eventually. I don't have a schedule for Sword Art Online 2, but for this one, I'm definitely suggesting a huge pass. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 because this is not good. Alright, and that is it for the video. My name is Payne. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, which I don't even know if that works anymore because I keep hearing stuff about YouTube screwing up or conducting an experiment about it. But regardless, I hope you get the notifications about this video. And once again, my name is Payne, and we'll see you in the next video.